And you're live.
Welcome everybody to the Dream Show Live. Myself, Mr. Isaac, down there somewhere
Hola.
wandering. Appreciate y'all
Yeah.
being here now and later, right? The people who going I'm sure people watch it later. So thank you for not being live, but you're live whenever you're watching it, I guess. So that's cool.
I mean, I guess the Dream Show Live is still technically live, but because it was
And
recorded live to tape.
and they're live. Is this on
They're
tape?
live. Well, I mean, okay. They still
Ooh,
use the
ooh,
term
whoa,
like
whoa, whoa,
live
hold
to
on.
tape.
This went crazy just real fast. This was
Okay.
not on my list of things we were going to talk about, but that's how it goes, right? I don't know. So yes, it's not on tape, is it?
I mean, technically, no.
I say
It's
that too
in,
sometimes, and I'm like, that's how they're gonna date you.
yeah, that's how they know how old you are.
Hmm. Boomer. That's still a thing too. People still call people
I
that.
don't even think that's a thing anymore.
Mm. They are still there though. There's still boomers out there somewhere. They're probably watching the show. I think that's
For
our demographic.
sure.
Are we the boomer demographic now? We're not that
Are
old.
no,
Heck,
no, 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 no,
do
no.
boomers do jujitsu?
I do think that I've hit, like I was talking to my dad about this week, is that when you hit your mid-30s, that's like the age that I feel like my friends that had kids when they were younger, their kids are now at the age that I look at them and I'm like, oh God, that was Todd when he was 12. Like,
Yep.
and now like it's you start seeing those decades and you see the decades of things. I mean, even decisions and things that happen, like you see it play out over time that you're like, oh wow, huh. Turns out maybe those old guys knew a thing or two.
Because yeah, they just kind of saw stuff. You're just around long enough. You pay attention. You catch on to the trends.
Would you say they're eco learning?
I think that's everything, right?
Yeah. I think that's the ticket to that whole argument that I don't even think is still an argument anymore in the community. But I mean that is learning, right? Learning is multiple layers of how to get
Mhm.
there, but the ultimate thing is doing the thing.
Yeah. You just gotta do the damn thing. And for a long time.
How long have you been training, Steven?
This is 20. What's the math? Two, 17 years now, I guess, or so. So not terribly long in the grand scheme of things, but pretty long for the average person.
Yeah, I mean 17 years, like the way that I've started thinking about it too is that think about 17 years at anything else.
Now I'm almost an adult. I can almost go get some dip across the over there at the store now.
Not anymore.
With
Isn't
my
it
little
21?
is it? Oh no, they took
Yeah,
my.
didn't they go up 21 on
I
tobacco
that's
products?
don't know that. I don't know that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure they
Mm,
did. I don't know. It's been so long, but like yeah, 21 I think is the tobacco age now.
interesting. And
I like
I
how you
don't.
laughed at me when I said been so long thinking about when 2118 was, but I mean, like that was a while ago for me now.
No, it's the same. That's what I said. I was trying to think about that. It's like when was the last time I got hit? Like when was that? I don't know. It's been I don't know, a long time. That's the thing. That's just a funny like teenager thing, I guess. That flashed into
Yeah.
my mind. Being able you get legal for stuff.
Being excited to legally be able to
Turn
buy
18,
something.
I'm an adult now. I can do whatever. So
You can put yourself in debt
quickly,
fast.
permanently.
18 years old, they'll slap a contract in front of you that's like a $300,000 loan. They'll sell you a house without a house.
Mm, that's cool. So
I
your
mean,
dream,
yeah.
man.
I've had an interesting like thought process on that recently with the like whole argument where people go, they didn't teach us how to adult, because there's like this new trend that I've seen a couple like headlines where they're like Gen Zers are now taking adult 101 classes because they feel that they weren't taught how to adult. Maybe they'll be the first generation that like learns. And to be honest, man, I think that systematically there was no system that just like held your hand and like taught you how it was to be an adult. But dog, like the information was presented to a lot of us. And a lot of the people that I see complaining the loudest about like we weren't taught how to adult, it's like, well, you weren't paying attention, if I remember correctly, when we were 15.
Yeah, and I don't know.
I see both sides of the argument. I'm not picking a
I'm not.
fight
I'm
with
not
one side or the
saying
other.
yeah, and I'm not saying anything about that. But if you don't like, so there's like a two-parter, I guess, in that. The first one being, yeah, if you don't have the skills, there's nothing wrong with going out seeking to learn and develop
Right, right,
these
right, right.
skills. Whatever. And so, what are the skills that I guess before that even? What are the adult skills that people are talking about that they lack?
Financial awareness is the one that I mostly see people that
Oh,
are like,
okay. So yeah, that's probably a big thing for most people, I would say for
yeah,
sure. Like I think, you probably have a different upbringing in that way that I think your dad talked to you a lot about that kind of stuff more. It seems like the way that I've gotten to know you guys over the years or whatever, the way that he talks to you and had talked to you. Seems like you had a lot more information about stuff like that than at least what I thought the average kid that I knew or person did, growing up. So I think there's a level of that that's definitely real. Um,
I think what my parents did a lot too in that is they didn't shield me from anything.
that's probably the bigger thing that I've started to learn a lot is we want to like protect or like say that keep them from trouble, keep them from harm, keep your kid from being in a bad spot. But that's how you learn. That's how you understand things better. Like we just talked about earlier, it's like it's just the way it is. And if you never learn, and not saying everything is supposed to be learned, but it's like a age appropriate thing, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
whatever that is. Um, but you have to be exposed to certain things so you would know before it became a problem.
Well,
And
there's age appropriate, and then there's like also too, I think that even if it's not necessarily in a moment that the kid's gonna like grasp it, don't give them a fluff story of whatever. Don't give them like if there's
yeah, don't lie.
yeah, don't lie to them. Like if because kids are smart and they're gonna be adults,
Hmm.
and so like if early on they learned mom and dad had to like be really frugal to make sure that we could go to school and have all these things, and they learned that as opposed to it just happened.
How do you know that though? How do you learn that without like again without some sort of something in there because you don't know that. Like it's a funny thing, and bringing it back into fighting and training. Charlie, my daughter, it's been a couple years now, but we were just talking and things or whatever, and I've been trying to have conversations with them about stuff like this and that for a long time. And I was talking to either her or her brother about like needing to go practice or learn or do something that they were doing and needing to like really like kind of focus in on it or whatever. Uh, and I kind of just threw out like this, I guess, I don't know, at the time, didn't rhetorical kind of question. Um, but I said, like, how do you guys think I got like so good at doing jujitsu and fighting and stuff? And Charlie said, well, I thought you just watched YouTube videos because that's all she's kind of ever really
Right.
seen mostly of her life is like I went and trained, but she's only kind of seen me be one of the coaches and things like that. Mostly in her mind, I've not really been one of the students ever.
So she sees you studying.
Yes, and she thinks that's how I learned it because that's all she's kind of seen. Like I said, that's the structure she saw for her life,
Right.
or whatever. So I went to show her things, other stuff and videos and pictures and different kind of like help reform. But then now
Connect
it's
the
like,
dots. Yeah.
and then now's another thing I've talked to with a lot of guys and dads that care a lot. Are like, now this is another part of that mastery thing that we talked about with other stuff. Like, you got to pick up something else now to help them see you do it again.
So you learn. Yeah.
I got to do something else now. I've been picking up things and trying to do it in front of
Mhm.
them and show them what it's like when you do stuff for the first times, and it's
They can
good
watch you
enough.
fail.
Yeah, it's good enough, and that's all that really matters. And if I'm enjoying myself and it's not hurting anything, then let's go. Let's
So
do
so
whatever.
you answered your own question though, is that how do you put that in place when there's nothing in place? Will they just come with you while you're learning those new things? They just learn alongside you. That's like
But that's again okay. So then we'll get to a deeper argument about the way society is now versus maybe another generation ago or the
yeah,
generation before that, even where you could just load up in the truck and sit outside the stores and everything all day and just ride around, hang out like that. It's not a thing now to where people are really not able, I guess, but it's just not the way it's set up. Everybody's disconnected and run around here, run around there. Kids are in school for 8 to whatever hours a day. People are working, trying to go pick them up, trying to do an activity, trying to have dinner, trying to have dishes, trying to have laundry done. Is there a project that you got to get done? You know, anything like that. So it's a bunch that's going
yeah,
on to where you don't have the opportunity to model always everything that you might want to. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't or can't, but I'm saying that it's definitely I can see the struggle in doing it all.
yeah. No, it's not easy for sure. But also it's proven so far that it's a lot harder if you have entire generations that all they did was go through that system that you just described.
Oh, I know. I know. That's
And
true.
we're choosing to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? Is it you to some extent? I know that there's situational things and stuff like that, but like
Yes and yes. It's it's a thing as a whole. Yes,
as a whole, it's a choice.
yes, but now that it's so ingrained and stuff, it's really hard to break away from that culture or break away
For
from that
sure.
that mindset of like you need to go to the school to be there to learn. That's the only way you can really get educated is to be in school learning. Uh, so it
I think a lot of the people that go into school, this was something that like I think I saw because I didn't go to like regular school or whatever. I went to school when I was in high school. Like I was homeschooled up until 10th grade. But
Mhm.
when people say like homeschooled, you think like overalls, long jumpers, like people just out in the woods that aren't going to school, but they're just, there. Like
Some a log cabin school, which
yeah, like so look, that exists for sure. But for the most part, everybody that I know that's been through those things, it's another system. Like the homeschool has a system. And there's like higher like where you're supposed to like be looking for to get the education so you get all your different curriculum. That was the word I was looking for, curriculum. And then like that's what you follow and whatnot. But the big thing that me and like my mom really instilled this in me, and then also like the other friends of mine that have been through the kind of the same experiences, that like I also learned to take that curriculum and then leverage it by figuring out where did that curriculum come from. And like so go further into the authors, go further into the stuff. And like so I learned to like see how I could pull things from what was there. And
yeah,
like my summer reading list, like everybody had summer reading list. My reading list came from the best schools that were around, that were all like where some of my friends went, and I just read the same books they read, which then I learned later in life now. And I did this as soon as ChatGPT came out. As soon as it came out, I was like, I wonder if I could do this. I sat down and I have it saved on my computer where I got it to write me the entire curriculum for multiple. The first one was for an MBA. If I went and got an MBA from Harvard, what would my study curriculum be? And so I went through. I got the whole curriculum, and then I went back and I said, okay, tell me where I can find all this information for free. And it showed me all the library links, all the different things. And it was one of those things is that like I think the biggest thing that we can do is like instill in the younger generation and the people under us and our kids is that you can educate yourself. You don't have to sit there and wait on somebody to hand it to you. And I think that that's what you described earlier when everybody's in that like rat race or whatever. At some point you're sitting there waiting on somebody to give it to you, which works sometimes. And you can educate people and you can make people that are physically capable or like they're capable of doing a job or capable, but do they understand what they're doing? Do they understand the world around them and things like that? And I think that when we talk about the system, back to my original statement of people being like, oh, they didn't teach us how to adult. I think it's more of that like you just weren't given the opportunity to understand that like you can teach yourself anything.
And so I don't know, man. Maybe I'm a weird age gap too, I guess.
Yeah.
For some of these things. I'm what they would call the first like millennials.
Right.
But my dad was like a generation older than everybody else's parents.
Okay.
My age. Like they waited, until they were older to have me and my sister. Not like super over, like 30. So
yeah. So he was like a decade. He was like a decade older than all your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so there was like a different kind of thing there with that.
So
too.
he would have been like tail end of
153. So like right
that's
before
like
everything.
Beginning of baby boomer, right?
I think maybe
end?
the middle end of it because they were coming home from the
war. Yeah.
So yeah, probably something like that. But yeah, so I don't know. It's just stuff like that too can play a role in a lot of it. But you gotta try to figure out how to take the time. And I'm not saying anything good or bad about anybody or what they're choosing. With their school's good, especially if you didn't have access to anything. It's definitely way better than the
It's a starting point for sure.
And so I think throwing it out, like blanket statement wise, to say that everything should be one way or the other is kind of crazy because obviously some people really benefit from the school systems and things like that too. But yes, if you can, I think it helps a lot if the parents are able to help with guiding the learning and different things like that because you care in a different way and you also have more freedom. It seems like to do stuff like we're talking about. But I have friends that do it and homeschool and stuff, and I know people that have, and it's like, oh, they get to just kind of do stuff in the middle of the day, and they can kind of just do stuff in the evening too. They just do stuff like schoolwork whenever. They don't have to be at school for 8 hours. They can do the schoolwork in 1 or 2 hours at the most a lot of times. But also they're doing things that in the regular day that teach you math and science and reading and
teaching the thing that we're talking about as far as like adulthood. Yeah. Like if the school system, if you want to talk about like a blanket thing that would fix a lot of things, is that like if the school system was more of a like realistic environment inside the school to where they're actually having to learn how to interact amongst each other. So like if the school was structured, say like a company or like a town or like a, and like there were things that they had to do to like engage with it. There's a guy that I was talking to at a wedding.
Commune, is that what they call it?
Yeah, I think that we start sliding. You can slide another direction. But I was talking to a guy down here at a wedding that was his family has owned a school for like the last like 30 years, and it's a private school, and they K through 12, and they instigated or not instigated, that's not the word I'm looking for, but they implemented a economy to the school. And so they have like bucks, like I don't remember what they called them, but like it was like currency within the school.
Mhm.
And you earned your currency through your schoolwork and your task and your different like extra assignments and stuff like that. And it generated an economy that they then plugged into like macro and microeconomics class, that then the kids are learning how the world works with money, all the way down to some of the kids he figured out like at some point there was excess currency, and he figured out that some of the kids that had like this currency were kids that shouldn't have it. Like their assignments weren't checking out with the my man had to become the IRS.
Mm.
And he figured
Tax
out that
people.
they were selling each other the bucks back and forth and stuff and trading them, and they created a stock market where they were loaning each other the bucks and stuff like that, and created a whole thing that, that they had to like go about. And it's like it was the real world, like it
Mhm.
happened.
This is how it goes.
And I was laughing, which this guy was a educational type and stuff. So, but me, I was just thinking about like some of my debaucherous friends that I had, that I was like, yo, the guys I know that would have, you immediately would have to learn how to like control and interact with the real world. I feel
Mhm.
like when you introduce that.
Or you might be like me and be able to do smart on school stuff and beat people up. You
Yes.
can control the market and then the market like that.
You start strong arming the start.
And I'm supposed to have some.
Right.
I'm supposed to have it.
Just for existing.
Right. I'm a good guy. I'm one of the good guys. I get the points. So I'm supposed to have a lot of money, but then they don't know that I'm like taking it from other people too, like strong arming them.
But yeah.
That's the
But
real world,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
unchecked, without the IRS coming in and bringing their guns. All right, so what'd you do this weekend before we just did a whole show
Yeah,
about
we
nothing?
we did a whole show about
That was Seinfeld.
life, but we this weekend there was the media day for season 8 for PGF, which
Media day.
that was pretty cool. Like we've done media like lead up and stuff for seasons before, but we've never had like the like professional athlete thing where it's like they come in like they're dressed up. Like we'll do it like the night of the draft type of thing, and we're trying to like put together a bunch of packages. So like on a side note on the PGF, this shifting to the full season format, I'm pretty excited about. Like I'm pretty like this is pretty cool because from a production side of things, it spreads it out to where it's like, oh, this is going to be a lot of work for a long time. But then at the same time, it gives us time to work.
Mm.
And so it gives you time to cook and gives you time to start putting things out there and bringing stuff up. And like the content we got over the media day, like, I mean, it's great. It's the guys that came in, the characters that are coming in, everybody's kind of like understanding what we're doing and what's going on as far as like this is a show. Like we're making a show. Like cool, we love that you're good at jujitsu. That's why you're here in the first place.
Mm.
But now we're like trying to be entertaining with it and show that like a lot of these guys, like they're the like what you and I talk about, the artists, the people that are trying to like paint, but like in a weird way. Because these younger guys are just, I mean, we saw in the qualifiers, we've seen in CJI, ADCC, all these guys, the average, all right, I'm going to misspeak on the average age, but I'm pretty sure like most of them were 23 maybe.
23.
Yeah, like they were a lot of these cats were young, but when they come in and they'd sit
Mm.
down and they'd like settle down, because I was the first station in like the little like interview car wash that Keelan set up is that I was the first station, and they would come in with me and TJ. They'd sit down, they'd settle in, we'd say action, and then TJ would ask them like, "Who are you?" and like, "How long have you trained?" And they'd sit there, they'd say their name, and they go, I've been training since I was 4, so 17 years. And you're like, huh,
They just
okie
like me.
dokie. But like, imagine if you had trained as long as you have trained, but you were 24.
No, this is the day that we've been talking about since the days
They're here.
once it became this thing, it was done for the other guys. Probably. It's it's gonna be hard to come in and get started and make a very high level without being maybe tied to some sort of grappling sport or something.
Without having been a wrestler or
Or some
been in
at least at some
Sambo
base
or,
of
yeah,
something, maybe, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of these guys also have that base. They've also wrestled or probably mostly wrestled, also. And yeah, they've done it for as long as a lot of us have that started when we were, young adults that got into it. And even somebody like myself that kind of went all out, they're still same probably because they didn't have to go all out during those formative years to get a lot of those kind of lessons that took me a while to be able to understand and get because I was already like preconditioned to a bunch of stuff at the age I started. Like already had like a bunch of movement patterns and problems or whatever it is that kind of at least mentally even stopped me from wanting to try stuff. Uh, Whereas the kids got in there and obviously enjoyed it enough to stay in it. And yeah, I see kids in class do stuff all the time, and I'm just, oh my god,
Yeah.
like there's like, you know, if they keep going, if they figure out, how to figure this thing out or whatever, or even not even like that, but just going against each other kids wise, it's like their bodies just do stuff, and if you want to do it, sometimes you just get away with it, right? They're not,
Yeah.
you can just do it, which is crazy, but it works. And so I've just seen a lot of crazy things in kids class too, and
I mean,
again,
think about if you started when you were 4. Like, what gets in most people's way when they're learning jujitsu? Their ego, right?
yeah, the only thing I would say and quickly to counter that though is that the burnout factor of that because I've seen a lot of
Oh,
child
for
prodigies
sure.
that quit when they hit this
For sure.
15, 16-year
Or
old
they lose their
age or a bit
mind, or
younger.
they, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too. So it's like there's a balance between being someone who started young and ended then, and it's true in all things. Like there's a lot of people who are really good young, and then puberty happens, and then when puberty happens, the best kids aren't the best adults a lot of times because the later bloomers come on strong, and if they've been out there playing, they're still getting a lot of the lessons, but their body hasn't really caught up. And then when their body catches up, they've also had all the same lessons, and they probably even struggled more,
Which made it a little bit more,
little bit sweeter.
little sweeter on that.
Hmm. That bittersweetness of it all for when it finally starts happening, versus if you've always been winning a lot, it's kind of hard if you start taking those, hard losses or random losses. Or I mean, heck, your attention changes, and rightfully as a kid, teenager, whatever that you
Oh,
like
for
we talked
sure.
about, you should maybe want to learn something else if you've already been really really good at this thing for so long. What's the point,
Yeah.
of
And
going?
perfume and gasoline will mess up any good
Mm,
athlete.
yeah, yeah, it's a thing. So yeah, it's exciting to see all these young guys on here, and there's guys on the list for sure. Got my eye on, just wanting to see them compete again. Some veterans from the PGF, along with some young guys that we saw on qualifiers and things like that. Um, it is back to maybe it feels a little bit more like one of the old days, whatever that could be, tournaments for the PGF.
Okay.
like a 2-3 kind of thing, to where there's a few guys that could be the better top 4 or 5 or something, and there's a couple guys that maybe people think are going to be, standouts or whatever. But there's a lot of parity. I think
So
there's going to be.
quick fire. Who's your favorite? Number one.
Oh,
Who's your number one?
to win the whole thing. That's the thing. Like, I'm looking at the list right here, man. And if I had to pick somebody today, I'd have to go with Jet Thompson.
I was gonna ask. Okay, Jet's your number one.
He, if I had to go today, he'd be who I'd pick overall,
Okay.
because he's got the experience in the PGF and stuff already. Even though it's different now, he still kind of knows the game, the way to
Yeah.
play and score. He may not need to take that couple of week learning. And I wonder if that's even going to happen this time. I don't know, with the time off, and depending on
If
who
they
their
have a
coaches
whole if
are.
they have a whole week to like prepare for the next one when they get that like shock
If
and
the
awe fire
coach,
of the first
yeah,
one.
and just if the coaches once the draft happens, make sure that they go through this stuff with the athletes and make sure that they can tell them how important each match is on each night. Now that everybody can be like more prepared that way, the same way y'all are talking about, they can still take that little gap or that big gap, a couple weeks, and at least start like looking at what you need to be ready for, even if they're not all on site together. Because from what I understand, some people aren't going to be able to be there full time. They're going to be going back and forth, excuse me, at home. But I think from what I understand, and I don't know if the coaches list is released yet or not, but I've heard that there's uh, a few guys' names that I've heard, and there's a couple of those guys that I know are really really impressive coaches. Uh, they have a really good background with that, and so I'm looking forward to see what we can do now, because I think the coach's job becomes infinitely more important than it used to be in this case. Uh, yeah,
Well, I've got news from the control room that we can tell the people who it is.
who is
The coaches.
okay?
This is
So
breaking news on the Dream Show Live.
this is break. Oh,
I
for
just
real?
got this from the control room.
Oh man. Okay. So Hinato Kanuto,
That one's a
correct?
big one.
That's the name I've heard.
See?
Okay, that's a big one. He's a big competitor. We've seen him here and there and everywhere, and I think you see people that compete for their team uh, compete very well, have a stronger style and stuff like that. And then also with him, knowing the PGF game more now, being more involved in it before, and them having been able to watch it a few times, he's going to be smart and know how to play the game. Coach two uh, is I don't want to apologies on mispronouncing this name, but Mika Sapili. I know Mika is I don't know how to say his last name that well, but Mika is a legend in the jiu-jitsu world, especially in Las Vegas jiu-jitsu. I think he's a 6th degree black belt. I'd have to
Yeah, I
think,
think that I heard somebody say that.
but I know that his team was in Vegas back in the beginning of my training, because I would go against people from there, at least back in 2008 or 9, and stuff like that. They were a really big team back then. So even now, really, really good. He's been in every season that's been in Las Vegas. He's been there pretty much on the sidelines for the whole week every time. So he's going to have a perspective on it too, because he's watched it and he's been able to talk about it with everybody involved. And, he's been behind the scenes at this as a coach and as somebody who's been watching jujitsu as a whole, and martial arts and fighting and stuff as a whole for a long time. I think he's going to have some interesting perspectives, and hopefully, with the connections being right there in town too, uh, he's going to be a strong player for the coaches.
Yeah, and he has one of his guys in there. I've heard a lot about Robert. Is it Blackledge?
Blackledge.
Yeah, yeah, that's one
Yeah.
of his guys. I was
What have
hearing
you
a
heard,
lot of good
what have you,
things.
what have you heard about him?
I just heard he was good, dynamic, like good things. It's one of those things that I just hear people talking, like when I'm standing around in these groups and like at the media day. And Mika seemed pretty excited when he got there and was talking about the rule set, and everybody was super pumped about like how things are going to be paced. And I think that this season you're looking at guys that are just going to be trying to hit the rev limiter and then break it.
Yes. And so another coach that I think is going to be very interesting. He was one of the co-coaches last season on the winning team. Uh, this this guy's a wealth of grappling knowledge and leadership and team building. Uh, really, really like cool person. Somebody that a lot of people look up to in the sport overall, and somebody I'm glad this background, and I want to see exactly. He's somebody I think that's going to do really well in this format because he'll understand how to prepare every week and be ready for these things in a way because he's done it a lot of times and he's coached a lot of things like this. But Ricky Lundell is going to be back, and he's one of the coaches for this season. And like I said, I'm very excited for that because he was one of the really fun people to get to talk to and listen to talk when he was trying to coach or tell people stuff during the last season. So I'm very excited to have him back as one of the coaches. So that's another, as far as coaching goes, this is why I think it was exciting that they're the format switched too, because these guys all have different takes on that and can bring unique strategies to it or whatever in that way. And then the fourth coach, really would need no introduction either, but we'll do one because y'all don't even know who it is, and we do for just another like 3,
Just hanging on to that. Just keep
2,
basking in the
1. Say
knowledge.
it's the Ninja, Andy Varela, PGF champion, coming in to oppose his friend.
Frenemy.
Yeah, Hanato, they're buddies. That's fun. That's always gonna be a good thing because they're competitive like that with each other anyway. Again, knows a lot about the sport, been involved or the game specifically the PGF. Obviously, won a season. Been paying attention. He was around a lot during last season, just kind of keeping up on things, not coaching or doing anything like that. But he's definitely been keeping his finger on the pulse of everything, from what I understand.
For sure.
And he's going to want to win. And man, if you've seen people that trade with Andy competing online,
His kids are terrifying.
bro, we were at the ADCC Vegas thing here, and we just happened to be like right beside one of those guys. I can't remember the kid's name either, but I was like, oh, that's one of the kids that trades with Andy. I just saw him, and I was like, that's definitely that kid. Uh, and man, he looked really impressive in person. Just really tenacious style and um,
Dynamic.
yeah, just in tough as nails too. Not backing up an inch. For anything. So that kind of stuff, like he's going to be bringing that stuff to the room, and he's going to want to win and be the first person to be the PGF champion as an athlete and the PGF champion as a coach. That would be
Oh,
an
a champ
amazing
champ
storyline,
storyline would be
bro.
great. Yeah.
Who could take he might that could beat Elijah maybe for top like winner in PGF history, even though it's only going to be 2 seasons, but that would have been once for athlete and once for coach. Man, that's putting you in the Hall of Fame that's going to exist in short form right there. So I think that'll be a fun thing to kind of watch and keep an eye on is to see how Andy's going to be maneuvering and which way he's going to play this with his guys.
A little side story about Andy, that when we were in Vegas doing I think it was the first qualifier we did out there, but we were out there doing a qualifier and I was sitting there filming something, an interview, I believe, and there was like all this commotion behind us. And then his kids, like the kids you're talking about that are like I don't know how old they are, but they're like teenagers, like young teens. And they all come running in all like rowdy and excited. They come in with this other kid and they get in the middle, and Andy gets out there and goes, "All right, y'all ready?" And then like these two kids ended up just grappling right there in the mat because they were out front, like throwing the football in the parking lot, like while we were working. And apparently they were waiting on us to get done at that point because some other kids had come up from the neighborhood and like we're like, hey, let's throw the football. What do y'all do? And like found out that they were all like jujitsu kids. And this kid was like, oh, I can wrestle you or whatever. And they got in there and he wrestled the kid. And I think the deal was is the kid lost, he had to like come to class. And of course the kid lost, like, because it was like Andy's best kid. And you were just like, oh my God, you don't know what you just walked into, kid.
It's a good lesson though.
But yeah, and like he sat there and there was like all this excitement. They like hugged the kid at the end or whatever. I don't know if he ever came to class or not, but it was a really cool story. And I think I have it on film somewhere. But
Got a bunch of them on film somewhere.
that's bro. Don't even
It's somewhere. I'll get it to you. I'm cooking. Let me cook.
I'm trying.
This is a 5-star chef. This meat is gonna be when it comes off.
I'm gonna you gotta hit it with that salt bay.
Let that boy cook. He's gonna be cooking and marinating for a long. It's like a 30-year dry age steak. That's what he's going for. I don't even know.
Moral of the story is that like Andy, I'm excited to have Andy in the in the season again, because having him at the media day, it was really cool. Like we were sitting there talking, and he has his guy Brady
Branscombe.
Brady, yeah, his guy, and they were there, and it was kind of late in the day, and it was like it's a long day. Like the media obligations of a professional athlete is grueling. Like it's tiring.
You hear that a lot, right?
Yeah. And people
places,
people roll their eyes and like, yo, come spend 10 hours at a like shoot, like, and tell me whether or not you're having fun. Like, and so it's the whole point of it is to help them build their platform and build their character and build out what they can make a profession out of. And so some guys get it, some guys don't. And it was really cool to see that like Andy gets it. Is he was kind of walking Brady through like going to all the different stations and whatnot, because we had to interview Andy too. And when we got done with them at our station, because they had like looped back around on us, they still had to go to RAF, and RAF show was taking a little bit longer. And Andy was sitting there and we were like, like it'd be really cool to have you on that segment to like have a piece of that and stuff and whatnot. And he told Brady, he was like, man, he's like, we need to do it. He's like, let's go hang out outside and we'll come back in and we'll do it. Because like that's good to see, because they understand that like we're working too. Like I'm suffering with you, man. I know that we've been here a long time, but we're trying to make something cool. Like if you work with me, you can be a part of it and be a big part of it. And that's been nice to see as the seasons have gone on, is that like more and more. Last season, you can see it in Grapplers, where you could see Kamoy really get it. And like Kamoy's gotten it for a while. He's out there doing his own thing and doing his whole like main character and all that. So that he got it. But then like when he got backstage last season, he was like, play the game, do the things, do all that. But then, full circle to the whole thing is that like they understand that like we're professional athletes. We have to like carry that torch, take care of ourselves. Don't go get hurt. Like it's a month away. Don't go wakeboarding this weekend. Like,
is there any? I don't know what the word might be better, but training for them in general for the guys that come in. Does the PGF media team provide any training besides offering them to speak up candidly?
Most of it has been the candid thing. We don't have formal like media training for these guys. That would be a future thing that would be pretty beneficial for them if they're not already like seeking that out, because like you can find people that are
definitely
media coaches and stuff that are like talking about it online. But like at the same time, also part of that, when you look at a lot of professional leagues, that comes on the team.
Yeah.
And that's that's something that's interesting, that as we develop as a league and as things kind of grow,
Mm.
if there's more of a permanent state of a team, then the team
So
can kind of start to pull this, that, like, setting that up.
that's new news as well, right?
Yes.
That was released, right?
I don't know.
I feel like that was. Let me take a second right here, and you just kind of tell
Yeah.
everybody more about what you
But
were
like the
saying.
team stuff, it could be really beneficial in that, because as they grow and as these athletes grow, they do need to be like guided in some way sometimes, so that they just know what to say when the mic's stuck in their face, that they know what the direction the organization's going in. I mean, you're a big wrestling fan, you're a big WWE guy. Like, they they fill in the wrestlers on the storylines,
Mm.
and they feel it because, like, they're improving, they're out there doing their thing, but you got to know what the ultimate goal of the company is, right?
Yep. And so I think right now, based on what we were just saying to each other too, I think that the coach is the person kind of that
Yes.
that could be the one similar to with Andy, just kind of taking on the role anyway. But I think that that would be right now the appropriate like one for that job. Um, Being that these coaches are locals and different things like that too, you should be able to get a different feel for 'em. They're all there. You know what I mean? So if you go stay there for a little bit, if you want to spend some time with them, that's also easy. And I think that that will be important for them to be able to have that stuff going on. Uh, since the teams are all just PGF, the coaches are the individual parts of that. Other than not, making an official PGF media like trainer, something like that, liaison, something like that. Somebody that kind of gives them something. That way they'll know what to say, but also like, hey, don't go up there and like do this crazy stuff that and
Yeah.
not crazy is bad, but like the crazy stuff that's gonna get you in trouble or get us in trouble or get just
Yeah.
make a bad kind of thing for
Yeah.
yourself, right? Just kind of teach more stuff like that. I'm saying it would probably be good for a lot of us uh in jujitsu because or martial arts in general, I think too, because it's just not been or it's just not something that's taught a lot. Media
Well,
literacy.
we've been on the fringes for a long time, and on the fringes anything goes, right?
Yeah, and that's been
And
okay, but now I
right.
think looking at professional, if these young men, coming up being professional, I think learning that stuff is going to be a craft that they need to develop, and whether that's PGF provided or not, they should do it on their own probably.
For
But I
sure
think
they should be
it would
doing it on their
be
own. If your
it
goal
would
is to be a
benefit the
professional,
league if they had that kind of thing also somehow. Even hmm,
if your goal is to be anything other than
maybe that already happened. I don't know.
what?
I think I've heard that title before that somebody kind of is the person that talks to them about like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, for one, I know personally every season I try to have multiple times, but I try to go out of my way to make sure that I have a conversation with every athlete.
yeah. I
That
think
is a
Brandon does that
conversation.
same thing
Yeah,
too.
and I
Yeah,
think
so
Brandon does it. I think
I think there's
Keelan
just
does
like
it. Yeah.
conversations, but as I say, it's like so that's I don't want to act like it doesn't happen. That's what's asking like is there like a specific media person or
No,
team thing that y'all do that because like I said, y'all all talk to him because I've heard Brandon give the talks in groups and individually lots of different times about to give people tips on for their specific thing too, and whether they take the advice or don't, that's always up to the person. So,
the
but I think
biggest
that
one, the
it's a big thing.
the biggest one that I hear Brandon tell all of them, because it's weird when you point a camera at people, it's almost like you stuck a gun in their face.
Hmm.
And so, like, you have to remind people to just be themselves. That sounds cliche and stupid, but it's like, no, no, no. There's a part of you that you know why people like you or dislike you. Those are both options. Take whatever that is turn the knob to 11 and just be who be that line. Now, to your point earlier of people being crazy or like doing the things that get you in trouble, I have mixed feelings about that.
I know because you're a scumbag producer. You want
Yes,
you want that salacious content.
but all I want is what the people want in that to defend myself.
That's what you again. That goes back to the other thing is that you can get out of that.
Okay, okay, I feel you. I feel you. But we're when okay, now we're off on a side
Uh
track
huh.
that I was thinking
You're
is
trying to make me feel bad.
no,
Now make
like
you feel bad.
everybody wants to tell you like what is and isn't safe and what is and isn't allowed and what you are and aren't allowed to do as far as big brands and big things like that. But then you go flipping through the catalog of things that have worked. And the ones and don't get me wrong, there's a too far on one side of that line and a too far on the other side of that line. There is. The ones that are uber successful can blur that line.
Mm. That's and then the ones that don't go to jail.
Right. I was like, because there's too far. There's
But
too
it's
far the other way.
immediately too far. That's the thing is like it's right there.
Dennis
It's
Rodman was my favorite
right
basketball
there.
player growing up.
That doesn't surprise me. Mandy too, actually. She like his hair.
Yeah, the crazy hair. Because like when you're a little kid, you watch, you're like, hey, what's that crazy hair guy doing? And then he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And you're like,
He's doing
whoa.
blow, flying
Yeah.
back and forth to Vegas and stuff all the time, just
I didn't say
disappearing.
live like him.
That's what made him special.
It's Jordan understood that. Never asked him to change.
Like that's a thing sometimes, and it's
But
it's
how
just
many
another
people like
side
him
concept.
don't get there?
I mean, a lot. Most people don't get there from
Most.
anyway. Most people who try to do it the right way don't get there either. So most people don't get there. That's why there is like a fictional
A
place,
thing.
kind of,
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever there is, you got to be okay with it for yourself. Like that's it.
For sure. To
So
rescue this from that spiral into the weeds.
here is there.
Yeah. There doesn't exist. Getting there isn't a
There's
thing.
always another there. Once you get what you have,
Yep.
you could always look for another there if you're not content with this
Yep.
thing. And there's nothing wrong with trying to strive and do more, but also knowing that falling short, that's part of the plan sometimes. Unfortunately, you didn't know that though when you did it. So you just got to be able to be okay with where you fell short at, knowing that that's a lot further than you were. That's the thing. Like we circle back into some of this stuff. 17 years. Some of these kids been training 17 years. We've been training just as long as each other. And so I could look at it like, man, there was no reason for me to do that because now all these kids are just as
Ahead.
good as I am,
Yeah.
like year to year wise, but also just better probably because of the physical, all the stuff we talked about. So, man, there would have been no reason for me to do that because I didn't make it or whatever that would be. Because I can say honestly, it shifted so many times what I thought make it was gonna maybe be or not. Because at first making it was like not dying in Bainbridge, Georgia.
You made it.
We out here, baby.
We
Let's
made it,
go.
mama.
17 years strong. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, I feel you.
So that's what I'm saying. So keeping that kind of perspective and it's a thing, not to get too far, whatever. Again, I'll put into other stuff, but like, just gratitude, man. This thing I've had to like think back on a lot this year and the last years because, the work gets hard and long, but being, grateful for the things that you do have and the things that you have done and the places that, you are going still it's cool. But if you're always thinking about there and then and what's next and the other thing and you're never satisfied. You'll always kind of have an empty cup in some way. So you got to be able to be grateful to have like a full cup, and that's been, it's something, but you maybe got to, again, you got to fall short sometimes to kind of realize that that was the goal of some things. That's just life and staying around, again, being part of it for so long. You see the patterns, and and that's why it's good for me to be here teaching and things instead of maybe all the 23-year-olds teaching and stuff too, because I have a different kind of perspective on life and different things uh, in sport and out of sport, where I can see and use and take their abilities and help other people do that same stuff and understand how to break it down and put it into practical uses and things like that. Whereas, you know, they're just out there maybe running and gunning a lot still. And even though they got the training and they know what they're doing, maybe they don't have that depth of like complete understanding on everything around it yet. Maybe they're still just kind of really good. I don't know. That's say there's a lot of stuff that's good about being older in that way.
For sure. I mean, a lot of the injuries that you sustained when you were younger and the injuries that young guys and young ladies end up giving themselves and getting is because they're unaware because there's no fear.
I try to tell you that, yeah, there's a lot that we talk about like that. It's like that's good until it's not. And that's
Yeah.
like, so I would let that's for somebody else to do. And then once they have this specific injury, they won't do that anymore. And then you'll see somewhere along the line that injury will pop up for them, and either they adapt and overcome, or that was the end of the
An
athletic
iconic
dominance.
one, an iconic recent one that I can have talked to somebody that it doesn't affect anything that we're involved in. So I can disclose what I've heard him say is Tackett, Andrew Tackett. You
Mm.
remember you remember that front flip back take he did in CJI?
Mm-hmm.
My bro's back is jacked from that. He said when he went to do it, he ran into the wall. He completed the back take, but his shoulder like hit the wall as he did it, and it just compressed it because he did a front flip into a wall. Like, yeah, you took his back, but
Ooh.
God, that had to hurt.
Mm.
So, I mean, yeah, it works till it don't.
Yeah. And that's man, that's unfortunate. He's good too.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
No,
He's
no, I
young.
know. It's just that
Yeah,
again, that's the dad coming out real quick. I
yeah.
can't. That's who I am now. I don't like to see my babies hurt or other babies hurt. That's somebody's
No, yeah,
kid.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
feel that.
I'm not in the let them bleed anymore category that
Oh,
much. I
okay.
like being entertained. I like seeing stuff, but I definitely don't want to see anybody get hurt. That's the hard line
But how
too.
do you
That stuff.
navigate that in a
I
sport that
can't.
the goal is to hurt it, to hurt them?
Hey, that's right. The goal is it to hurt them?
Yeah.
Is it? What's the goal?
The way you score points in the PGF is a kill or a break,
Right. No, it
i.e.,
doesn't have to hurt them.
that's their choice.
Right.
But my goal is to hurt you.
No, my goal is to win.
Right. But okay, all right. You
People might
have
get hurt. People might get hurt in order for me to reach my goal. But my goal is not to hurt them. My goal would be to win and to score the points. And I can
which
choke you
requires
and
you
not
to hurt
I
them.
can choke you and not hurt you.
Okay,
I
that's
get the
different.
maximum amount of points and not hurt you.
That's different,
Is it?
right?
No, it's not. It's your
Because
goal.
you can make it your
No, you
goal
want to
to get the
muffle
choke.
people. You want to put your two hands over people's face and just suffocate them because you like that. You don't want to be like technical in that spot and try to use a more delicate, you know, finesse approach. You like to be rough. That's what you like. That's why you think that way.
No, I'm just saying that like the goal.
What is the goal?
The goal is a break or a choke,
The goal would be to win.
which requires a break or a choke, or
Okay.
which
And then so a
requires
choke scores the most points.
right.
So then
So
the
the
goal should probably be
ultimate.
like maybe that
Okay, I feel
that
you. I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. But like in 6 minutes, we all have realized that
that's
that's
the thing. I don't
difficult to
have to
do.
hurt you though. Like I don't have to think that I've got to hurt this guy.
But what about the guy? So say, see, you'll keep going back to the choke. You have this little trump card you're gonna throw at me every
I
time. But some guys, like you put them in a leg lock and they don't respect it.
Yeah. So then you have to break their leg.
So I have to hurt you.
In that case, you might, or you might need to look to go to something else.
I guess my question is that like to some extent
You have to be willing to
you
hurt
have to be
somebody.
okay. Yeah, you have to be okay with hurting somebody.
Yeah, you have to be okay to accept it. But I think that's, almost in everything.
Okay.
On a conscious level, it's the same choice.
Okay.
For you to win, somebody else needs to lose a lot of times, or unless you're on a team, in which case, still another team loses. And so you could be looking at it.
That's interesting. I mean, that's interesting to me. It's like with MMA. Like when we start like splitting hairs and like creating these rules to like make MMA safe and stuff, and be like, but the whole point is to dismantle the other person to be unwilling to continue.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point. No, like when we take it out of jujitsu and into a fight, well, the point is damage. So why are like to some extent, why are we talking about safety? I'm not saying this is what I believe. It's a question.
There's a question. There's a question. I don't know. I think, just like in everything, you can make it as dangerous as possible, but then it's not palatable, and then nobody's going to pay for it. And so you can have your war games, and I don't. You're not going to be able to have it, and really be. Nobody
Will
wants to go
people
out there and really die.
will people not watch it, or are we ashamed of watching it?
There'll be a little bit of both.
Because I mean, there's millions of views on that Russian fight league where they're like fighting in garages in their tennis shoes and bare knuckling it.
There's nothing wrong with, let's say, like, and again, we're talking about a bunch of different things. If we're talking about
Yeah.
fighting for your life, or fighting where there's like different things like that, then yes,
Okay.
you need to be as violent as possible, as quick as possible. That's that's the answer in those kinds of settings. But this ain't that, because I can't just do that. I got to be calculated at least still, even though it's just a 6 minute sprint in jujitsu. It's still not me being able to get really dirty and violent fighting you in 6 minutes.
To
Which I could,
really make that
you could
6 minute
submit
sprint.
somebody a lot more without all these rules we got in jujitsu. All these PGF rules we got about not jumping here and there and spiking people and eye gouging and pulling hair and all that kind of stuff. The groin attacks. So add that back in, right? Because the point is to hurt them quick.
Okay.
What?
I
How
see
much
your
is an eye
point.
gouge? Is that 6 points?
I mean,
Submission.
no.
You get submitted because you got like de-eyed. What's that called?
I gouged.
Yeah, they're like,
Gouged.
I'm gonna pop your eye out. I'm like, old wrestlers used to do. That's a thing, you know that? That's how they would get guys. You try to get them, they get down there, yeah, they'd pull your eye out
Yeah.
if you went off like, too much. So that's a thing. Like, it's a real thing. It's happened. It's on video. It's
Oh,
like, so if we want that, then yeah, you know, it's a
I feel
different
you.
thing,
I feel you. Because
So
it
that's
can
where I'm at
devolve.
with it, right?
It can devolve all the way
If you
down.
want to be violent as possible, there is somebody that wants that, and they will devolve. And yes, it'll have to go underground, but there'll definitely be a market for it somewhere. This is not that though. Yes, sometimes you have to hurt people. Yes, you have to be willing to hurt people, especially if you want to use joint locks to finish. But that is why the 6 points exist for the kill
The higher
in that way,
motivation
because
should be
you
towards
don't
the kill.
one, you don't have to hurt them, but two, they're done when it's done. Joint locks, you can maim somebody, and they're not done.
Yeah.
I
To
break
which
your arm, you come back 6 weeks later, get
yeah,
me again.
it
You know what I
choked
mean?
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the break. See, my philosophy on the breaks is the idea behind breaking your leg in a real scenario is I'm not breaking your leg and I'm done. I'm breaking your leg and then now you can't stay because, which we all know most people, if you get heel hooked and you blow your knee out, you're not gonna continue fighting.
People keep fighting when they get
But there
shot.
are people. That's what I was gonna say. People do, and so it's like you when we're talking about that break and it being as catastrophic and whatnot, it you're just trying to break them down limb by limb when you're at that point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. It talks about what it depends on where we're going with it. Because yes, if you're trying to hurt somebody, like if you're trying to finish them, then yes, maybe starting at a joint lock to hurt them, and then maybe having to do another one, and then eventually you could do whatever you got to do. That's definitely an element of this thing that is important, But I think that's the least amount of what people do in jiu-jitsu.
I mean, have you ever watched John Wick? I've seen dudes get their arms just like kicked, hyperextended, and then they throw a punch 3 seconds later, and I'm confused as to how that works.
Adrenaline.
I feel you. I was making a joke about kung fu movies and John Wick, but
I don't know, man. I think more people need to get in more life and death fights, and then they'll have a good perspective, maybe.
not wrong.
Just alternatives that your perspective might just be wrong, unfortunately, and then you die.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which hill I want to die on exactly, but
but it's not whether or not the inside Kazushi
if it's there, it's there. Like you could, totally break, for sure. All that stuff's valid. And I don't even know where we're going with that. But yes, in the PGF thing, the want to hurt somebody to me is a little bit weird.
Okay.
You can need to be dominant. You can need to wear them out. You can need to take them down or whatever, wear them out gradually, kill them with attrition in that way or whatever, but I think sometimes wanting to just hurt them makes you be rough for no reason. Like you're being overly aggressive,
which then opens up gaps and makes you
that's why I don't need to just hurt you. I need to systematically break you down.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always have to be some sort of break either. If I can make you tired, right? If I can just make you tired first, then everything else starts to be
and
available
that's
to
that
you.
Jedi stuff of Yoda telling Luke your anger isn't what you want to feed on because you can't see clearly, you can't think clearly if you're like angry. You know the guy I'm talking about that grabs you and you're like, oh, you want to hurt me?
Yeah. And that's the thing, you can again in the long journey, yeah, anger can fuel you. Anger can be a great motivator. Anger can get you through a lot of stuff, especially tough times physically like that when you're having to deal with that stuff, for sure. But also, it's not the emotion that you want to lean on in the hard times.
It's not what you want to feed off of.
It's not reliable. It's not reliable. So you want to be able to have that, space for that to where again, you're willing to do it if you need to, but the want to shouldn't necessarily be there.
Well, back to your number one pick, Jet Thompson. Look at him in his season where, you could see where he opened some guys up a couple times where he was doing the little, face push.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really being vindictive about it or, smother. It just, he stuck it in there all the time. And it was just annoying. And it was just where you're just like, all right, look.
Right. And that's that. He wasn't hurting anybody.
Yeah.
With that. But that was annoying them. And that made them want to hurt him.
It gave them.
Got them
to open up.
And yes. So it's a thing. If you, the want to hurt them is it's a tell. As I had this conversation with somebody the other day. Sometimes playing poker when you're out there with somebody in a way is we all know what the cards are and we all know the combos and we all, you know what I mean? So are you bluffing? Are you somebody that bluffs? Do you bluff a lot? Do you only bluff when it, I've called on, he really only bluffs when it's in his favor though. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You start figuring out that too. It's it becomes the one-on-one game is different than two because everybody knows the moves. We all know the moves, right? So there's reading the person, and so then if you play the same person for a long time, you can start seeing those tells more, right? So putting yourself in the position of just like control, or not even full control, even, but just like you're giving some, taking some, right? You can start like reading what they like to give and what they like to take, and so you can pick up those kinds of patterns in a person, and then when they get tired, everybody gets a little more erratic.
Yep.
The more tired they get, the more erratic they get. Decision making goes down, physical response time goes down, stress level goes up, all kinds of things just start really going bad. So that's the thing. There's that sense of it that I think is more what is a jujitsu thing. But there is an element of, you got to be willing to hurt them, or they're going to get away, and they're going to hurt you probably when they get their opportunity, because they're willing to.
I guess like that whole conversation is that when you do have it, like you can't hesitate. And so the fear of hurting somebody has to be gone.
All gas, no brakes. You got what I mean?
But some people misinterpret that. And then they
Yeah.
just burn up.
They've
And
been
then they ain't
muffling
got no
people
brakes, no gas, no
inappropriately.
nothing.
Yeah. You out of gas and you never have brakes.
You never had brakes to begin with. You had the e-brake up the whole time and it wore off
Gone.
10 miles ago.
Gone. Here we go. Tuck and roll. That's what you did your brake falls for all those years.
Brake fall, baby.
For this moment.
That's good. Well,
Listen, I got a beautiful team name.
let me hear it.
I'm gonna tell it to you off air.
Okay, off air. Okay, you
It's
can tell
coming.
me off
It's
air.
coming. But
I'm
listen,
excited.
everybody. Big things. Big things. So many fun things coming up. One thing that's coming up is I have weaseled my way into a volunteer role at the kids banana ball youth camp Thomas is doing. So
She.
I'm gonna be trying to perform whatever stuff to learn. Teach me this performative art you guys have
Are
here.
you okay, so it's like a bananas baseball, so like their
Kids,
flavor for
yes, kids,
kids?
yeah, kids are coming in from all over the country, and like they're doing like a tournament and like a few days of like games and different. They're pairing them off into different teams and age groups and stuff, and they're gonna teach them like some of the dances and the trick plays and stuff like that too. But then that the entertainment part of it is definitely gonna be still like part of what they're doing for the kids. So they're doing a whole thing with that stuff, man, and I'm super
That's cool.
excited. I begged my way on. I was like, please, like, if y'all need volunteers, please. I do all kinds of stuff. I'll be a prop. Like if you need somebody to like jump off of or something, I don't know. But I think it'd be fun to be able to see something like that. Just kind of watch a lot of what they do, and be able to absorb it. Like we talk about with a lot of stuff, is that I think that's gonna be very fun. So hopefully some of the ideas that I've already got with some of the ideas, seeing some of the execution, maybe
Kinda
I would
like
say
mixing
better.
it in, yeah.
Yeah, learning how the another chef kind of does their work, so to say. 'Cause
Yeah.
we know how we do it, right? But there's always things that we could add and take away, and especially for somebody like myself, again, I could learn a lot about this performance side of everything like that. So that's kind of what I'm interested in being able to do, is watch them, and then also get the coaching tips to be able to help my kids and the other kids around here, obviously too, with that I help coach with stuff to make it more fun, and want them to come back. And like, kind of like the things is like there's a
Is it a
line, right?
day camp or is it
No,
like
it's like
multiple
4 or
days?
5 days.
Oh, damn. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah. We're going out there
You
for like
going to
4 or 5
summer
days.
camp.
Yeah, son, I'm going to play, dog. That's just so exciting. That's what I'm saying. My boy, got me in the door. Uh,
That's cool.
yeah, so it's fun. And this is like the week before a week or so before the first week of the season.
Mm.
So it'll be like right before I start to head out to PGF season
So it'll
8.
be fresh.
Yeah, I'm gonna be ready to play. I'm
That's
be
sick.
ready to play. So yeah, that's super fun. I'm excited. So
You got anything coming up on the jiu-jitsu world other than PGF?
not that, nah, nothing too big. We had Ryan Aiken at the school this weekend, PGF champion, doing a seminar. We had our 5 year
Bro, that seminar was
kind of
good.
day. Yeah, yeah. So everybody, I think I said that on the post too. If you can and you want to book somebody that's got some good stuff and a fun seminar, Ryan was definitely a very entertaining and informative kind of seminar. And he hit me with a, so accidental, probably like we talked about those, that'd be like a hook in the video or whatever, where you like say something in the beginning of the video, you're like, what? And then you just kind of stay for sure the whole time locked in to see what they said wherever that comes into play at. You know?
Yeah.
And so he had like a, I don't want to give it away too much. It's not even a big deal, but he just said something about like a specific movement, and I was
Yeah.
just like, what? But then as he started explaining it, I was like, oh, okay. He
Yeah.
didn't mean what it sounded like the first time he said, or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's just funny. It's just he called something like inferior, I think. And so I was like, what? I've never heard that before.
Yeah. It was the
But then
inferior thing.
yeah, and it was just like a later part of like the series or something like that.
It's
And
like,
that's
oh,
why
that's why you called it was inferior.
it
Now
was
it isn't.
later. Yeah. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
I got you. Right
Yeah.
time, right place kind of deal. It's that
Yeah.
whole thing, timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's something that him and that crew I think are really good at. That like
timing.
timing, like they do the right move at the right time.
They
And
know
I've
when.
heard like Sean coaching them. That's what he's coaching them on. He's like, yeah, now,
Mm-hmm.
as
Do that.
opposed
Yep,
to
yep, yep.
as opposed to it being like he does give specific instruction and stuff and like paints like that with a coach. But I'll hear him sometimes that you're like, yo, that was impeccable timing to tell him that. Like he did that to me with Manning. Manning threw me, and I ended up like in this position where like I was gonna go for the ghost escape and like try to do the ghost escape to the Morris or whatever. And like that was like my bread and butter when I was a blue belt. And I was like, this is gonna work. And I went to do it, and he like told him, I don't remember the exact instruction he told him, but he told him the right moment to grab my far shoulder and grab that like tricep and pull it up and do that like judo, like pulling your shoulder. And I was like, oh no, that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
I
that's
love Ryan.
important. Yeah, that was important. I think that stuff's good. So yeah, Ryan, thanks for coming through, dude. Great time. I think everybody got a lot to digest. I had a lot to digest, and some different takes on some, again, and that's the thing we talked about here is like there were some things that reaffirmed things that I said that I thought were pretty true,
Mhm.
and at least, somebody else is out there high level agreeing with it. And there were some that was a little bit different than what I would have said.
Gave you
And
a new
so
perspective
yeah,
type of
and then
thought.
when he
Yeah.
like showed me when I was in the positions and not this instead of that. And it's like, oh, okay, I feel what you mean now, because when I was still doing the other thing, I thought I was doing what he said.
Yeah.
But then he came over there and was like,
Yeah.
it's actually like this, just slightly differently. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, that's a big,
A
powerful like
big difference.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
And
the
then
cool
you
thing.
add somebody athletic and strong and big and strapping like him, and he
Yeah.
does that little difference. You're like, uh-oh.
And then he's like, hey, we'll roll some. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll do a round with you. And then he does it to you.
I had the
Yeah,
same thing. Yeah.
worth the price of admission, baby. It works then. Like if he
Yeah.
can
He
do it to
passed my
me,
guard so hard he made me toot.
I think I feel like I made him work for a few minutes, and then finally he caught the pattern of whatever was going on, and then I was in trouble then.
He caught like I can't remember. I was rolling, so I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was some sort of like a foot sweep or like something that was just probably one of the most comical things I've
Yeah.
watched play out between the two of y'all.
Do
It
what
was a
now?
fun round to watch.
Me and
Huh?
him?
Yeah, it was like
Oh,
he did like a kuichi or like a little thing when you were like standing there and it had gotten slippery.
mm,
And it was one of those things. I had been
yeah,
training
I
in the
can't
room
remember.
with you for a while. Like it was fun to
Yeah,
roll with you, to be honest. Like I hadn't gotten
yeah,
to
it's
roll
a
with
good
you in a
time.
while.
Yeah,
So
that was the
it
first
was
time
a
I ever
good
really
weekend.
rolled with Ryan. So yeah, it was a good time. And like I said, it's like, oh yeah, this is okay. And then all of a sudden he was doing the stuff, and I was like, oh okay, all right, this is where you don't want to be right here. And then it was just mall city kind of for the rest of the round from that spot. I was like, yeah, I like that stuff. I like that. I'm gonna do it to other people.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, for sure.
So,
For sure.
so yeah, good times, man. But
Well,
uh,
cool. July 19th, we got another Cancun Open happening down here.
let's go.
So that's ramping up for the
Cool.
Johnny Hernandez Invitational 2 in October.
Yeah,
And then we're ramping up for the draft on the 25th of this
June
month.
25. Yeah, I'm interested to see the draft and how everything's gonna play out with that.
Real money at play
What
here.
strategies? I know, man. That's cool. I'm sad that wasn't the case last year. I think that's a
Yeah.
very fun way to do the draft. It makes it more exciting. It makes
Yeah.
it, you know,
It means something. When you
bubble.
get drafted high, you're like you
Now
get
everybody ain't
paid your
really talking
worth.
that junk.
There's some guys that are in here gunning for the bad guy title. So
Oh
we'll
yeah.
see. Yeah, there's some guys that came in hot.
Hey, listen,
I
just
won't steal their thunder. I'll let their promos do their talking.
I'm here. I'll do my job. Y'all just let me know what y'all need.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining the Dream Show, everybody.
Much love.
Out.